I've always believed that sacrifice is the backbone of family. It's what makes the weight of responsibility feel lighter when you know there's a purpose behind it. For years, I gave everything to my family, my time, my energy, my dreams, because I thought that was what being a good husband and father meant. I worked 2 jobs to pay the bills, missed countless moments with my kids, and watched my own ambitions wither away as I watched my family succeed. I didn't mind. I truly didn't. There were times when I'd look at my wife, Sarah, as she navigated her career, and I'd feel pride in the fact that I was the one holding the foundation steady. She had dreams that were big and bold, and I wanted to be the one to help her reach them. My dreams? They seemed small, quiet, almost insignificant, but I didn't care. For the first decade of our marriage, I built my life around her and the kids. I put everything I had into supporting their futures, even if it meant sacrificing my own. I was always there, always steady, always reliable. I didn't need accolades or recognition. I just wanted to know I was doing the right thing. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being enough. It wasn't dramatic at first. It was subtle, a few too many late nights when I was asked to stay at work, a few too many weekends spent behind my desk instead of with the family. Sarah, always driven, didn't say much at first. She was supportive, but the support began to feel more like a transaction than love. The kids got older, more independent, and the family dynamic shifted. I didn't see it happening, but I felt it. The space between us began to grow. Then came the moment that I couldn't ignore. It was a Tuesday evening, a few days after I had finished a particularly exhausting project. I had spent the past 2 weeks working 16-hour days, barely sleeping, missing family dinners, missing time with the kids. Sarah was sitting on the couch when I came home, the television playing softly in the background. The kids were out with friends, and the house felt quieter than usual. "How was your day?" I asked, setting down my briefcase and leaning against the kitchen counter. "It was fine," she said, glancing at me absent-mindedly. She seemed distant, as if she had a million things on her mind, but none of them involved me. I tried again, pushing my frustration aside. "How about you, Sarah? Anything exciting today?" She looked up then, her gaze sharp. "Exciting? Are you serious?" She scoffed, shaking her head. "You really think I have time for excitement? I'm dealing with the kids, trying to keep this household together, while you spend all your time at work. How's that exciting? Huh?" I felt the sting in her words, but I tried to stay calm. "I'm doing the best I can. You know I'm working hard to give us everything we need. We have a house. The kids have what they need. This is what family is about, Sarah." She stood up, her frustration building. "Is it, Ryan? Is it really about this? You've been so wrapped up in providing that you forgot we need more than just money. We need you. We need your attention, your time. You keep saying that we're doing well, but at what cost? You're not even here anymore." Her voice grew cold. "And you think that's enough?" It hit me like a punch to the gut. "I'm here, Sarah," I said quietly. "I'm doing everything I can. Everything. For you. For us. You don't understand, this is what I've been working for. To build a life we can all enjoy." Sarah stared at me, her expression hardening. "You think I can't see what's happening? You're a failure, Ryan. You've sacrificed everything for this family. And for what? To be ignored? To watch everyone else grow while you just stand there?" The words landed like daggers, sharp and relentless. I stood frozen, staring at her, unable to breathe. "I'm a failure?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. She looked at me, the anger in her eyes matching the emptiness in her voice. "Yes, Ryan, you are. You've worked so hard and, for what? You've given up everything, and I can't even recognize you anymore. I'm tired. I'm tired of doing this alone. I can't keep pretending that this is enough." The words hit harder than anything I could have imagined. I had thought I was doing the right thing. I had sacrificed so much, but in her eyes, it was never enough. I had poured my soul into this family, but all I had left was a broken version of myself that she couldn't even see anymore. She turned away, the silence in the room thickening with every passing second. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fix this. She was right, everything I had done, all the sacrifices, had led to this moment. I had given so much of myself, and now, it wasn't enough. That night, I lay awake, the weight of her words settling in. I had spent so many years building everything around her, around the family, around the idea of what it meant to be a husband and a father. But what did it all mean if she didn't see me? What did it mean if, in the end, I was just the man who worked himself to the bone and wasn't enough? I couldn't stay in that place. I couldn't stay with this feeling of being invisible. I had to do something. I had to prove that I was more than the man who had been ignored. I had to find something for myself, something that wasn't about her, or the kids, or the family I had sacrificed everything for. I had to find something that was mine, something I could control. A week later, I took the first step. I signed up for a business course at night, something I had always dreamed of doing but never had the time for. I had no idea where it would lead, but I knew it was the beginning of something new. I began making plans to start my own venture, something that was mine, that I could build on my own terms. I spent my evenings after work diving into business strategies, reading books I had never had time for, learning about investments and marketing. It was hard, exhausting, but for the first time in years, I felt a spark inside me that hadn't been there for a long time. I wasn't doing it for Sarah anymore. I wasn't doing it for anyone but myself. I wanted to prove that I could still build something, that I could still be someone, but I wasn't prepared for what came next. One evening, about a month after I had started my course, I sat in front of the television, going through some notes, when a breaking news segment interrupted my concentration. The anchor was speaking, her voice full of excitement. In an unexpected turn of events, Ryan Collins, the former operations manager from Peak Tech Industries, has just launched his own company. Collins Tech Solutions has already signed a multi-million-dollar contract with one of the biggest tech firms in the country. This move is expected to disrupt the entire market. I froze, the words hanging in the air. I wasn't sure what I was hearing. Was this real? I leaned forward, watching the segment unfold. A clip of me appeared on screen, giving an interview about my new venture. I was standing tall, confident, speaking about my vision for the future. The reporter then mentioned the company's projected revenue, its growth rate, and the investors backing it. It was happening. I was doing it. I sat back in my chair, the weight of everything that had led to this moment sinking in. And then I remembered Sarah. I had done it. I had made something of myself when she had called me a failure. And now, she was going to see it too. On television, in front of everyone. I had risen higher than she ever thought I could. The morning after the news report aired, my phone was blowing up. Calls from business contacts, messages from friends, even a few congratulatory texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years. I hadn't expected this kind of reaction, but there it was, the evidence of something I had longed for, respect. But it wasn't just the calls that made my heart race, it was the thought that Sarah was watching too. I didn't expect her to suddenly come running back. I didn't expect her to admit she was wrong. But seeing my success unfold on national television had to have shaken her. Just a little. The man she had once called a failure was now on the fast track to building something great. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. The success I had worked for, quietly, behind the scenes, was finally coming to light. And it wasn't about proving something to Sarah. It wasn't about revenge. It was about the freedom that came with building something that was entirely mine. The first week after the report aired, I was bombarded with offers. Investors, tech companies, and even local businesses wanted to partner with my new company. I had gone from someone dismissed by his own family to someone people wanted to work with. But the reality was that none of this had been handed to me. I had worked relentlessly to get to this point. Every hour, every late night, every sacrifice, it was all adding up, and I could feel the momentum building. The first contract came in, and it was everything I needed to solidify my position. A multinational tech firm wanted to partner with Collins Tech Solutions to streamline their internal operations. The terms were generous, and the deal would give me access to a level of growth I had only dreamed about before. I signed the agreement in my office, feeling the weight of what it meant. This was my chance to prove that I was capable of more than anyone had ever given me credit for. As the weeks passed, the company began to grow exponentially. We hired more people, expanded our services, and began reaching clients across the country. The sense of achievement was overwhelming, but what really drove me was the realization that I was doing it without the support I had once relied on. I was building something real, something that couldn't be torn down by a betrayal, by a wife who left me for a man with more money. Despite the success, there was a lingering ache, a reminder that I had been left behind. Every time I sat in meetings with investors, my mind would drift to the life I had lost. I'd wonder if Sarah ever regretted her choice, if she ever looked at me and thought about what we could have built together. But then, I would remember, I didn't need her to find success. I had found it on my own. Then came the text. It was from Sarah, and it came late one evening after a long day at work. I hadn't heard from her in weeks, and I wasn't sure what to expect. The message read, "I saw the news. Congratulations, Ryan. I didn't expect this. I guess I was wrong. I should have believed in you." I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. My heart skipped a beat, but then the truth settled in. This wasn't an apology. It wasn't the acknowledgement I had craved. It was just her acknowledging what was happening. Nothing more. She didn't understand. She didn't see me for who I had become, not just the man she had walked away from, but the man I had chosen to be. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The success I had achieved spoke louder than any words she could offer. She had once told me I was a failure, and now, my success would be the answer to everything she had ever said. Business continued to grow, and soon, we were being recognized in industry circles as a rising star in the tech world. Our team expanded, and I began to feel like a real CEO, not just someone pretending to be successful. The satisfaction of knowing that I had done this on my own, that no one had handed it to me, was immeasurable. I started to reach out to new partners, shaking hands with people who had once turned away from me because I wasn't important enough. Those same people who had looked past me now wanted to work with me. It felt like I was finally stepping into my own. No more shadows, no more second-guessing myself. I was creating something from nothing, and it felt incredible. But in the quiet moments, I still thought about Sarah. I wondered if she regretted leaving me, if she saw the man I had become and felt even a flicker of regret. And then came another message. "Can we talk?" It was short, simple, but it sent a shiver through me. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch. After all, what was there left to say? She had made her choice. But even as I stared at the screen, I realized I still had questions, things I needed to say, even if it wasn't for her. It was for me. I had built this life not because of her, but despite her. But that didn't mean I didn't have unfinished business with her. I agreed to meet, but not out of hope. I agreed to meet because I needed closure, not closure from her, but closure from the version of myself that had once believed I needed her to be whole. We met in a quiet cafe, the same one where we had shared countless cups of coffee in the early days of our relationship. The space felt different now, smaller, quieter, filled with ghosts of memories I had long buried. She looked at me as I walked in, her face softening when she saw me. The woman I had once loved, the woman I had given everything for, sat across from me, her eyes full of something I couldn't quite place. "You've changed, Ryan," she said, her voice tentative. "I had to," I replied simply, sitting down. "It wasn't just for you, though. It was for me." She nodded slowly, her gaze not leaving mine. "I was wrong, Ryan. I see that now. I thought I could find something better, but all I've found is emptiness. I made a mistake." I didn't respond at first. The truth of what she said hit me, but it didn't hurt the way it would have before. The past wasn't something I needed to go back to, it was something I had already left behind. "I can't fix what happened," she continued, her voice breaking. "I know you don't want me back, but I need you to know that I was wrong. I was blind, and now I see what I lost." I looked at her, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing but calm. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to validate me. I had already validated myself. "You made your choice, Sarah," I said softly, "and I made mine. I've learned that it's not about what we lose, but about what we choose to build afterward, and I've built something worth more than anything I had before." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't let myself feel sorry for her. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I added, standing up, "but I've already found my peace." As I walked away from the cafe, I realized something profound. Sarah's departure, her rejection, had been the spark that had set me on this path. But I had walked that path on my own. And now, I was standing at the top, not because of her, but because of me. The weeks following my meeting with Sarah felt like a quiet before the storm. There was a sense of calm in my life, no more struggling to prove myself, no more seeking validation from others. I had built something of my own, something that could no longer be taken away. But despite the success of my business, there was still a part of me that couldn't shake the feeling that there was something left unfinished. I had proven to myself that I could rise from nothing, that I could become the man I had always wanted to be. But there was still one thing left. One thing I had yet to reclaim. My place in the world. And to do that, I had to complete the circle. The company was growing steadily, with new clients and projects pouring in. The team was solid, and Martin and I had become a formidable duo in the business world. But there was still one thing missing. The final step that would solidify my success. The thing I had been working toward all along. I knew that in order to truly secure my place, I had to take on Richard Lane's legacy. The company, once a symbol of his unchecked power and arrogance, now lay in ruins, but his name still held weight. The investors he had once courted still respected him, or at least, they respected what he had built. And now, it was time for me to take that legacy and make it my own. The plan was simple. Secure the biggest deal of my career, the one that would elevate Collins Tech Solutions to a level where it couldn't be ignored. This wasn't just about money, it was about respect. I knew the big players in the tech industry, the ones who could make or break companies, and I knew how to approach them. I had spent years learning the ropes, observing the decisions that led to success, and now it was my time to lead. I set my sights on a major tech firm that had been a competitor of Richard's company. They were looking to modernize their operations and streamline their processes, exactly the kind of work we had been doing for years. They needed someone with experience, someone who could deliver results quickly and effectively. And that someone was me. I reached out to their CEO, setting up a meeting to pitch my vision for their future. The meeting took place at a sleek, modern office in the heart of the city. When I walked in, I wasn't the same man who had walked into Richard's office years ago. I wasn't the man who had been mocked or dismissed. I was the man who had built a business from the ground up, who had fought for every contract, every client, every inch of success, and I was ready to show them what I could do. The CEO, a sharp and calculating woman named Linda Harris, looked at me with skepticism at first, but I didn't flinch. I laid out my plan in detail, showing her how we could improve efficiency, reduce costs, and increase profitability. I presented data, charts, and projections. I didn't just talk about what I could do, I showed her exactly how I was going to do it. Her questions were tough, but they didn't throw me off. I answered each one with confidence, drawing on my years of experience in the industry. By the end of the meeting, I could see the shift in her demeanor. The skepticism had melted away, replaced by respect. "You're not just talking the talk," Linda said, her tone now approving. "You've got a solid plan. I like it." "I don't just talk," I replied, my voice steady. "I deliver." The deal came through just days later, and when I signed the contract I felt something I hadn't in years: validation, but not the kind I had sought from Sarah or anyone else. This validation was from within. I had earned it. I had done it on my own terms, without needing anyone else's approval. The news hit the business world like a wave. Collins Tech Solutions was now a major player in the industry. The deals kept rolling in, one after the other, and the company's reputation soared. It was more than I had ever imagined. But as I sat in my office, watching the world unfold before me, I realized that this wasn't just about the business anymore. It wasn't about the money, or the deals, or the recognition. It was about freedom. I had been shackled by my past, by the expectations, by the betrayal, by the loss of everything I had once held dear. But now, I was free. I was free from the need to prove myself. I was free from the shadows of my former life, and I was finally in control of my own future. The shift in the company wasn't the only change. As I gained success, I began to distance myself from the people who had once looked down on me. I stopped seeking approval. I stopped caring about what people thought of me. I had found my own worth, my own place in the world, and nothing could take that away. And then, just as I was settling into this new version of myself, the inevitable happened. Sarah reached out again. It wasn't unexpected. I had known it would happen eventually. She had seen the success on television, had heard the buzz about the company, and now, she wanted to know if there was a chance for us. She sent a simple message: "Can we talk? I see what you've built, Ryan. I was wrong. I want to make things right." I stared at the message for a long time, my thoughts swirling. I had thought about this moment countless times, but now that it was here, I wasn't sure what to say. What could I say? I had built something for myself. I had risen higher than she ever thought I could. But that wasn't just about the business. It was about reclaiming my identity, my strength. I didn't need her to complete me anymore. I had completed myself. I picked up the phone and dialed. "Ryan." Sarah's voice came through, tentative, almost apologetic. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I made a mistake. I didn't understand you, or what you needed, until it was too late." I took a deep breath. "You did make a mistake, Sarah. But I'm not the same person you left behind. I'm not the man who needs your validation anymore. I've built something that I'm proud of, and I don't need you to be a part of it." There was silence on the other end of the line. A long silence. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice strained. "I see that now. I understand. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I appreciate that, Sarah. But I've moved on, and I'm finally at peace with where I am." The call ended with no dramatic final words. It wasn't a reconciliation. It wasn't closure. It was simply the end of a chapter that had been written long ago. That night, I stood by the window in my office, looking out at the city below. The lights flickered in the distance, the heartbeat of a city that never stopped, and for the first time, I felt at peace. I had everything I needed. I had built a life I could be proud of. The world had once looked at me as a failure, but now, I had proven them all wrong, and I had done it on my own terms. The weeks following my business breakthrough felt like a blur, a whirlwind of meetings, deals, and negotiations. The company was thriving, and I was at the helm, leading it to heights I had only dreamed of. But amidst all the success, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing, something that went beyond the contracts and the financial gains. I had achieved the one thing I had wanted most: independence. I had rebuilt my life, not just from the ashes of my past, but from the perception that I was nothing more than a failure. But as my new reality settled in, I found myself wondering if there was more to my success than just proving people wrong. I had come so far, but I realized the true victory wasn't just about what I had built, it was about what I had learned along the way. I spent the next few months solidifying the foundation of my company. With the contracts rolling in, the team growing, and new opportunities presenting themselves, the business was becoming everything I had hoped for and more. Martin and I worked tirelessly to expand our reach, bringing on new clients and refining our services. We weren't just surviving, we were dominating. But despite all the external validation, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come personally. There were moments when I would catch myself looking at the skyline from my office window, feeling a sense of achievement. The city stretched out before me, the lights twinkling like stars in a universe that I had carved a space in. I had gone from being the invisible man in my own home, neglected and forgotten, to a leader with a voice in the world. I had proven my worth, not just to Sarah, not just to the people who had doubted me, but to myself. Yet, even as I reached for the stars, I still felt a tug of longing, an echo of the man I had been before everything changed. I had spent so many years defining myself by what others thought of me, by my relationships, by my sacrifices. But now, I was learning to define myself by my own terms, my own standards, and that was both liberating and terrifying. The phone rang one afternoon, snapping me out of my thoughts. I picked it up, expecting another call about business, another client to woo or deal to close. But when I saw the number, my stomach dropped. It was Sarah. I hadn't heard from her in weeks. Our brief conversations after she had sent that apology had been polite but distant. I had moved on, and I was sure she had too. But now, with the phone in my hand, I felt a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. Was this another apology? Or was it something more? I answered. "Sarah." "Ryan," she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "I saw the news about your company. It's incredible. I'm proud of you." I sat back in my chair, surprised by her tone. It wasn't the anger or bitterness I had expected. It wasn't the woman who had called me a failure. It was something different, something more genuine. "Thanks," I replied, trying to keep the conversation neutral. "I'm doing well." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I know I don't deserve it, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I know I've hurt you, and I can't undo the past, but I want you to know that I see you now, Ryan. I see what you've built, and I realize that I was wrong." Her words struck me in a way I hadn't anticipated. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, to to rub her face in the success I had achieved, to tell her that she had made a huge mistake. But instead, I felt a quiet sense of peace wash over me. "You've made your choices, Sarah," I said gently. "And I've made mine. I've learned that I can't go back. I can't fix what's broken. But I've found something new, something that's mine, and I don't need your approval anymore." There was silence on the other end, then a soft sigh. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. You deserve happiness, Ryan, and I hope you find it." I have," I said simply. "I found it in myself." After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. It wasn't anger I felt, it wasn't even bitterness. It was relief. I had spent so much time waiting for validation from Sarah, waiting for her to see me as more than the man who had failed. But now, I realized that I didn't need her to validate me. I had already done that for myself. I had already rebuilt my life, piece by piece, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. In the months that followed, I didn't hear from her again, and that was okay. I had my own life now, my own path, my own success. My business continued to grow, reaching new heights with each passing month. We signed new contracts, expanded our team, and developed innovative solutions that positioned us as leaders in the industry. My reputation was no longer tied to my past, to the man I had been in the shadow of others. It was tied to my achievements, my vision, and my ability to build something real. And then, just when I thought I had everything under control, a new challenge appeared on the horizon. A rival company, one that had once been Richard's competitor, started to make aggressive moves in our market. They began poaching clients, offering lower rates, and creating a lot of noise about their innovative approach. It felt like the same old story, the big fish trying to swallow up the little one. But this time, I wasn't the little fish. I wasn't afraid of competition. I welcomed it. This was the game I had been playing all along. I knew that I could rise above it. But it was clear that this new company, backed by deep pockets and even deeper egos, wasn't going to go away quietly. I called Martin into my office, ready to strategize. "It's time to take them down," I said, my voice steady. "We've worked too hard for this. We're not going to let some flashy company come in and steal what we've built." He nodded, his usual enthusiasm lighting up his face. "We've got the edge, Ryan. We've always been the underdog." And just like that, the next chapter of my journey began. I wasn't just building a business anymore. I was building a legacy of strength, resilience, and success that could never be overshadowed by anyone else. The battles ahead would be hard, and the competition fierce, but I had already conquered the hardest battle of all, the battle within myself, and with that, I knew I could face anything. The months following the deal with Linda Harris and the swift rise of Collins Tech Solutions were nothing short of a whirlwind. Our company was quickly becoming a staple in the industry, and my life, once defined by failure, heartbreak, and the weight of others' expectations, was now marked by success, independence, and in quiet triumph. But even as everything fell into place, there was one lingering question. How long could I maintain this momentum? How long before the past caught up with me again? I had built something real. The financial backing was secure. The clients were flowing in, and our team had solidified. But the idea of having it all fall apart was always lurking in the back of my mind. I had spent too many years struggling in silence, and now that I had it all, I couldn't shake the fear that it could slip away just as quickly. Still, with every passing day, I grew more confident, more at peace with who I had become and what I had accomplished. The first few months felt like a dream deal signed, new contracts, awards, and recognition. But I had learned a hard truth in the past. Nothing worth having comes easy. The business world, like any world, was built on constant battles for survival. My rise from nothing didn't make me immune to the pressures and challenges of the industry. It wasn't long before the competition came knocking. Another tech company, once a rival of Richard's, saw the potential in Collins Tech Solutions and began to target our clients, poaching key accounts with lower rates and faster delivery promises. The challenge they presented wasn't something I could ignore. In fact, it was exactly what I had been preparing for. I had known this day would come. The market was growing. The competition was fierce. But instead of feeling threatened, I felt something more familiar: excitement. I had never been someone who feared competition. I had spent my entire career working with my back against the wall. Now, I would prove that Collins Tech was more than just a flash in the pan, it was here to stay, and we would fight for every inch of ground we'd gained. Martin and I sat across from each other at my desk in the office, reviewing the latest reports. The competition, led by a company called Tech Prime, had begun to undercut our pricing. They were offering similar services but at rates that were simply unsustainable, hoping to bleed us out before we could build enough of a client base to fight back. But there was one thing they didn't have: the depth of expertise and integrity that we had worked so hard to build. "We need to act fast," Martin said, his tone serious. "We can't afford to let them erode our base. Tech Prime has the resources to push us to the brink. If we're going to win this, we need to do it smart." I nodded, my mind already running through possibilities. "We need to make it clear that we're not just another competitor in the game. We're the ones setting the standard. Let's get aggressive with our marketing. Let's remind our clients why they came to us in the first place: innovation, integrity, and results." Martin raised an eyebrow. "You're not talking about the usual sales pitches, are you? I'm thinking something bigger, aren't you?" I leaned forward, feeling the fire in my chest ignite again. "Exactly. Let's remind them who we are. We don't just deliver on promises, we surpass them. We'll offer them not just the best rates but the best quality. And we're going to show them, loudly and clearly, why they chose Collins Tech." The wheels started turning. We devised a new strategy, not just to compete with Tech Prime, but to prove that we were the future of tech solutions. We would offer unique solutions tailored to each client's needs, deliver faster without compromising quality, and most importantly, reaffirm our commitment to building lasting relationships. I wanted the clients to know that Collins Tech wasn't just another company. We were their partners in success, and that would be our edge. The first step was a press release that would shake the industry. We announced a partnership with a major tech firm to launch a game-changing product, one that no competitor could match. I made sure the release wasn't just about our new product, it was about our values. It was a statement: we're not here to fight for scraps. We're here to lead the charge in innovation, and we won't be undercut by anyone. The response was overwhelming. Clients began to reach out, asking for meetings to discuss how we could help them move forward. Tech Prime's attempts to erode our base had only strengthened our position, as we had made it clear that we were more than capable of delivering on our promises and exceeding them. Then came the face-to-face meeting with Tech Prime's CEO, Kevin Hartman. He was everything I expected: smooth-talking, confident, and calculated. He thought this was going to be a negotiation, but for me, it was a confrontation. We met in a sleek, high-rise conference room. Hartman leaned back in his chair, hands clasped together like he was already victorious. "You've done well, Ryan," he said, his voice dripping with false praise. "But this is a war you can't win. Tech Prime has the resources. We have the infrastructure. You're a good company, but you're not on our level." I didn't flinch. Instead, I leaned forward, my voice steady. "I don't need to be on your level, Kevin. I just need to show my clients that I'm a better partner than you'll ever be." His eyes flickered, just for a moment, before he regained his composure. "You're bold, I'll give you that, but it's not enough. You can't survive on innovation alone. The numbers don't lie." "Then I'll let my results do the talking," I said, a smile curling at the edges of my lips. "We don't just survive, Kevin. We thrive." The deal with Tech Prime unraveled within weeks. They couldn't keep up with our pace, our commitment to quality, and the trust we had built with our clients. They tried to lower their prices, but it was too little, too late. Our clients didn't want the cheapest solution, they wanted the best, and we had proven time and time again that we could deliver it. As Tech Prime faltered, Collins Tech Solutions gained momentum, and with it, my own confidence soared. I had done it. I had taken everything that had been stolen from me, not just the business, but the recognition, the respect. And now, I was standing taller than I ever had before. But the real victory wasn't in the contracts, the clients, or the accolades. It was in the quiet peace that settled inside me. I had rebuilt my life, but I had also found my place in the world. I wasn't defined by my past, by the mistakes or the betrayals. I wasn't defined by Sarah's rejection or the years I spent in the shadows. I was defined by my choices, the ones I had made for myself. And that, more than anything, was the victory I had earned. It had been a long road. The struggle to prove myself, to rise from nothing, to build a company that would stand on its own in a world that had once overlooked me. Now, As I sat at the head of my office, the view of the city spread before me. I couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of achievement. But there was still one thing left: securing my legacy. I had come this far, but the final challenge wasn't about building the business, it was about keeping it. In the business world, nothing lasts forever. A company's success can be fleeting, just like the men who built it. The real test was not just surviving the competition but dominating it, ensuring that Collins Tech Solutions wasn't just a flash in the pan but a lasting force in the industry. And that meant doing something bigger than I had ever done before. The news that had been circulating the past few months had made it clear that TechPrime wasn't just struggling, it was on the verge of collapse. Despite their attempts to claw back into the market with lower prices and flashy campaigns, they had failed to capture the trust of their clients. Their reputation was irreparably damaged, and their resources were stretched thin. But as TechPrime faltered, another giant began to rise, one I hadn't anticipated: DigiX Technologies, a startup that had been quietly growing under the radar, led by an ambitious CEO, Nathan Blake. His company had begun to attract attention for its cutting-edge tech and disruptive business models, and they were beginning to target the same market we had carved out for ourselves. DigiX wasn't just another competitor. It was a legitimate threat to Collins Tech's position. I knew I had to act. DigiX had the resources, the innovation, and the drive to make a play for the top spot. If I didn't move now, I risked losing everything I had worked for. I called an emergency meeting with Martin. He had been with me from the beginning, and I trusted him more than anyone else. We sat in my office, poring over the latest reports on DigiX. Their growth had been rapid, their technology impressive. But there was one thing: they lacked experience. They were new to the game, and while they had talent, they hadn't yet proven themselves in the same way Collins Tech had. "We need to move fast," I said, my tone sharp. "DigiX is targeting our clients, and their pricing model is aggressive. But what they don't have is the track record we do. We've built a reputation, Martin. We've delivered on our promises every time, and that's what we need to double down on." Martin nodded, his face grim. "We've got a solid foundation, Ryan. But if they start offering better deals and faster delivery, it's going to hurt us. We can't rely on our reputation alone. We need to give our clients something more, something they can't ignore." I leaned forward, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "We need to innovate, but not just with new products. We need to innovate in how we approach our relationships with clients. We need to make sure that Collins Tech isn't just a service provider, it's a partner. We need to build solutions that are tailored to their needs, show them that we understand their business inside and out, and that we'll be there for them long term. That's how we'll stay ahead." For the next few weeks, we worked relentlessly. Our strategy wasn't just about competing with DigiX, it was about surpassing them. We restructured our pricing model, offering more personalized services, faster turnarounds, and long-term contracts that gave our clients more value than they could get anywhere else. We didn't just sell technology, we sold trust, reliability, and peace of mind. But while I was working on these changes, I knew there was still a larger issue looming over me. Nathan Blake, the CEO of DigiX, had been making waves in the industry. His reputation as an up-and-coming mogul was growing, and if I didn't act, he could quickly become the face of the tech world. I decided to take the fight directly to him. If DigiX wanted to challenge me, I would meet them head-on. I arranged a meeting with Nathan at a neutral location, an upscale restaurant downtown where business deals were often made. I wanted to see who this guy really was, what he was after, and if he was as confident in his position as the press made him out to be. When Nathan walked in, I immediately understood why DigiX had become a threat. He had the charm, the ambition, and the sharp mind to lead. He was charismatic, his smile disarming, but there was something cold about him. I couldn't tell if it was a calculated move or just the way he operated. Either way, I knew this meeting wasn't going to be just a casual conversation. "Ryan." Nathan greeted me with a handshake that was firm, almost too firm. "I've heard a lot about Collins Tech. You've done some impressive things." "Thanks," I said, holding his gaze. "But you're here for more than compliments, aren't you?" He grinned, straight to the point. "I like that. We're here to talk about the future of the industry. I've been watching Collins Tech for a while now, and I think we both know it's time for a change. DigiX has the technology, the vision to take the lead. You know that." I wasn't surprised by his boldness. "You're ambitious, Nathan. But ambition isn't enough to win in this industry. You've got to deliver. And I think you'll find it's harder than you think to stay on top." He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "I'm not worried about staying on top. You see, Ryan, I'm not just in this to play the game. I'm here to change it. Collins Tech has been around for a while, but your business model is outdated. You're too reliant on your reputation, and eventually, that will run out." I met his gaze, my resolve strengthening. "You're not the first to say that, but let me tell you something, Nathan. Reputation is built on trust, and trust isn't something that can be bought. It's earned, and if you want to play with the big dogs, you'd better learn that." The rest of the meeting was a battle of words, a test of wills. Nathan tried to convince me that DigiX had the future, but deep down, I knew he was scared. He was making moves, yes, but those moves were desperate. He was trying to grow too fast without the experience to back it up. He had the technology, but he didn't have the foundation. As I walked out of that meeting, I knew that I had made my point. I had shown Nathan that I wasn't going to back down. I had taken the fight to him, and he now understood that Collins Tech was more than just a competitor, it was a force to be reckoned with. The following weeks were a flurry of activity. DigiX continued to make its moves, but I could see the cracks beginning to show. They were trying to sell speed, but they couldn't sell the reliability we had built. And when the first of their clients began to pull back, I knew we had won. We hadn't just fought to stay relevant, we had fought to be the best. And now, our place at the top was undeniable. In the end, it wasn't just about beating DigiX. It was about proving that no matter the obstacles, no matter the challenges, I could rise higher than anyone thought possible. I had come from nothing, built a life, built a business, and now, I had cemented my legacy. And when I looked at the city below, I didn't see the man who had once been dismissed. I saw the man who had taken everything, with interest. The months following the fall of DigiX and the ultimate victory of Collins Tech Solutions were some of the most defining moments of my life. The company continued to grow, attracting new clients, new projects, and new opportunities. I was no longer just a man recovering from betrayal. I was a leader, someone who had reshaped his destiny with nothing but his own drive and determination. But even as I basked in my success, I couldn't ignore the fact that my work was far from done. The battle had been won, but the war was ongoing. The business world never stops moving. Competitors would always rise. New challenges would always emerge. And if I wanted to truly solidify my place, I had to ensure that Collins Tech Solutions not only survived but thrived for years to come. The first step in securing my future was securing the company's position in the market. I had already seen firsthand how quickly things could change. One wrong move, one slip-up, and all the hard work could come crashing down. That wasn't going to happen. I had built this company from the ground up, and now it was time to make sure it had the foundation to weather any storm. I started by expanding our reach. We had already captured a significant portion of the market, but I knew there were untapped opportunities in industries I hadn't even considered. Martin and I spent hours strategizing, looking at new technologies, new partnerships, new avenues for growth. We invested in research and development, making sure that Collins Tech wasn't just keeping up with the industry, it was leading it. The next step was building the right team. I knew that the company's success wasn't just built on my shoulders. I needed a team that was as dedicated and driven as I was. People who would push the company forward, who would innovate, who would take risks and make decisions that would propel us into the future. It wasn't just about filling positions, it was about finding the right people, the ones who would help me carry this legacy forward. It was a difficult process. Finding the right talent isn't easy, especially when you're trying to build a culture of innovation and trust. But slowly, over time, I brought in the best. People who shared my vision, my commitment to integrity, and my belief that the future was worth investing in. The company began to feel like a well-oiled machine, each part working in harmony, each person contributing to our success. As Collins Tech Solutions continued to expand, I began to receive invitations to speak at industry events, panels, and conferences. The world was finally recognizing what I had built. The man who had been mocked, dismissed, and left behind was now a sought-after expert, a respected leader in the tech industry. It was an incredible feeling, one I had never imagined for myself. But as the invitations came in, so did the pressure to maintain success, to keep delivering, to live up to the expectations that came with this newfound respect. I knew that my work wasn't finished. I had to keep pushing. I had to keep proving that Collins Tech was more than just a company, it was a legacy. One day, I received a call from an unexpected source, Sarah. It had been months since we last spoke, and I had long since moved on from the idea of reconciling with her. I had built my life without her, and that was enough. But the message she left on my voicemail intrigued me. "Ryan," she said, her voice tentative, "I know this might sound strange, but I wanted to reach out. I've been following your success, and I just wanted to say that I'm proud of you. You've done something incredible. I'm sorry for everything, and I hope you've found the happiness you deserve." I didn't respond right away. I sat there, the message replaying in my mind. It wasn't the apology I had been waiting for. It wasn't the closure I had once craved. But it was something I hadn't expected: genuine recognition. I didn't reach out to her. I didn't feel the need to. I had found peace in my success, in the life I had built. But for the first time, I realized that forgiveness wasn't about the other person. It was about letting go of the past, so that I could keep moving forward. As the years passed, Collins Tech Solutions became a pillar in the industry. We secured long-term partnerships with some of the biggest names in tech, expanded into international markets, and continued to innovate. I was no longer just running a company. I was shaping an entire industry. The pressure never fully went away. In fact, it only increased as the company continued to grow. But the difference now was that I was no longer doing it alone. I had built a team of people who were just as committed as I was, a team that trusted me to lead them to success, and that made all the difference. One day, as I stood in front of a conference room filled with investors, clients, and partners, I looked out at the faces before me and realized something profound. I wasn't just a man who had rebuilt his life. I was the leader of something that mattered, something that would last long after I was gone. And in that moment, I understood the true meaning of success. It wasn't the money, the contracts, or the recognition. It was the legacy I had built. A legacy of integrity, hard work, and resilience. The final victory wasn't about the financial milestones we reached or the industry awards we won. It was about knowing that I had created something with my own hands, something that couldn't be stolen or taken away. The family I had once sacrificed for had turned their back on me, but in the end, I had built something that was all my own. And as I looked at the legacy I had built, one founded on the principles I had always believed in, I knew that nothing could ever take it from me. No betrayal, no setback, no hardship. I had proved that I was more than the man who had been left behind. I was the man who had forged his own path, and that path was one of success, integrity, and lasting impact.